Good afternoon, everyone. Now, today we will see about the nematodes. The nematodes are the one of the species of the parasite family. So, this includes variety of the parasites. Today we will see the intestinal nematodes. It means the nematodes, the parasites that resides and habitate in the intestine. So, today we will see intestinal nematodes. So, at the end of this lecture, the student will know about the Trichuris, Trichuria and strongyloids. These both are intestinal parasites. So, this is the systemic classification of these nematodes. This is continue of this systemic classification. There are so many points of differentiation and they have a family and the genus. So, we will see about the classification as per their habitat. So, this according to they resides in their specific sites. They are divided into the intestinal nematodes, somatic human nematodes, which includes filarial worms and others human somatic nematodes. And this filarial form again they are divided like they are the parasites, the filaria which resides into the lymphatics. Some filaria which is seen in a skin infection and some in serous cavity. And some besides this somatic human nematodes, the some animal nematodes that unfortunately or accidentally they affect the human. So they producing a disease like visceral larva migrans, cutaneous larva migrans, then zoonotic filariasis. Okay, so these are the this is the classification according to their habitat. So the classification based on their how the laying of eggs or larva. So this is the basic terminology which is used for the laying of eggs or larva. Oviparous, which is the parasites which lay down the eggs. Then viviparous, the parasites they give the birth in the form of a larva. And ovoviviparous, it means the parasites which laying down eggs and immediately these eggs which is converted into the embryonic larva. Okay, so in each types of oviparous, viviparous, they having a different parasites which are producing this type of laying of eggs. So in this oviparous, which includes hookworm, ascaris, trichuris, enterobius. Today we will see about the trichuris, which is also oviparous. Then viviparous, it means they give the birth to the larva. So, it includes the filarial worms, Trichinella spiralis and Ranunculus medinensis. Then ovoviviparous, which includes strongyloid species. So, today we will see two parasites basically. One is oviparous trichuris and one is viviparous strongyloids. So, this is the general morphology of these nematodes. You can see here the adult male and adult female. Adult male having a shorter in length and adult female is a longer than male. And you can see in the front part the adult female having a long esophagus as compared to male, and in the female having a uterine cavity. So this uterus consists of eggs. So eggs which are arranged in a line. Okay. Then in the male, you can see at the end, posterior end of this structure having a spicules. This is the spicules. Okay. So this is the life cycle of Trichuris, enterobius and ascaris. Besides this enterobius and ascaris, we will see about only Trichuris, Trichuria. So actually these three organisms having the same type of life cycle. So that's why here mention all three together. So one is Trichuris. So how they affect any person or human? So mode of transmission is basically ingestion of eggs. Okay. because it is a oviparous. So oviparous means any food or water which is contaminated by the eggs. So the mode of transmission is by ingestion of this contaminated food or water. Then after ingestion, these eggs which will reach into the intestine, and it is converted into the embryonated eggs, which is an infective form. They develop into the larva, and again they develop into the adult form, which is differentiated adult male and female. Then after fertilization between them, they lay down the female trichuris, they lay down these unembryonated eggs. So these eggs do not contain any embryonated larva. So after that, what will happen? These eggs, which again they are laid down, and it is passed through the feces, and they entered into the environment. Okay, and in the environment, these eggs are undergoing a certain molting, and after that molting, again they are infected to the man. This is the life cycle of hookworm and strongyloids. So these two parasites having a similar type of life cycle and mode of infection. So that's why here it is mentioned a life cycle of hookworm and strongyloids. The strongyloids having the same mode of infection from the skin, and transmission is basically by the skin penetration. So these parasites which is entered by the penetration through the skin. So the infective form is the third stage of larva. It is known as a filariform larva. There are three stages in this case of strongyloids. Okay, and this filariform larva, which is known as L3 larva, entered in our body by penetration through the skin. They entered into the venous circulation. Then after entering into the blood, they goes to the lungs. Then from this lung, some strongyloids larvae, they are swallowing of in the sputum. So sometimes if we take the sputum sample, you will found this larva form in the sputum also. Then after that, they reach into the gastrointestinal tract, small intestine, and these strongyloids, they are developed, this larva form where they are developed further into the adult female worm. And here what will happen, the female adult worm which is lay down these eggs, and these eggs which is containing larva, and within intestine these eggs containing larva undergoing certain molting, and it is known as a L1 rhabditiform larva, and this L1 stage of larva which is coming out through this fecal material into the environment. So after entering into the environment, like in the soil, they are going under the process of molting, and they are convert or transform into the L2 and L3. And in the L3 again, sometimes the strongyloids which contain there is a three type of cycles. Like if larva which is coming out from the intestine through the fecal matter, they entered into the soil environment. So in the soil they undergo L2 stage, then L3 stage, they converted into the filariform larva, and this filariform larva which is again they are undergo certain maturation and converted into the adult female worm. And in this environment again these eggs containing larva which is pierce out, and they are transformed into the L1, L2 and L3. So again they are converted into the filariform larva. So what will happen, the same intestinal cycle which occurs inside the body, the similar type of cycle which occurs outside the body. So it occurs into the soil environment. And another type of cycle which is seen in strongyloids, which is known as the auto-infection cycle. What will happen in case of rhabditiform larva which is formed inside the body of intestine? So within the intestine, this L1 stage which is converted into the L3 stage, and this larva migrates to the various organs to cause a hyperinfection syndrome. And sometimes this L1 larva, which is can transform into the L2 and L3 stage again within the intestine, and they are again auto-infect the person having a similar type of infection again. So this is the three type of cycles which is caused by these strongyloids. One is auto-infection, one is larva migrans, and third one is in the development into the soil. So these three types of cycles occurs in strongyloids. So we will see first Trichuris trichuria, which is oviparous. They reside into the large intestine. Remember, the large intestine having a specific site is for this Trichuris is cecum and appendix. Cecum is the main important site for this Trichuris. The trichuriasis, you can see it is a worldwide distributed and mainly in the warm and moisture climatic condition. The children are most commonly affected and global prevalence is almost 604 millions. This is the morphology of Trichuris, which is very similar in all the nematodes. The female worm is larger than the male worm. And it is also known as a whipworm. As you can see here, there is a whip-like handle which is present in the female worm. So that's why, and here it is a sharp part. So that's why it is known as, it's look like a whip. Okay. This is the morphology of the egg which is laid down by the adult female. It has a very typical type of eggs. Both the sides of the egg having there is a mucus plug. So you can see here there is the end of both the eggs having a mucus plug, and this eggs having a embryonated eggs. So embryo, which is you can see inside the egg. The shape of the egg is barrel shape, which is surrounded by a hardened shell, and they are almost 50 to 54 micrometer in length and 22 micrometer in width. They are bile stained and they can easily float into the saturated salt solution. So this is the life cycle of Trichuris trichuria. As I discussed earlier, like eggs, which is a infective form of the parasites. So man acquired the infection through this ingestion of this contaminated food or water. Then eggs, which is entered into the human intestine. In the intestine, the larva, which is liberated from the poles of the eggs, and they are converted into the adult male and female worm. And after fertilization of this, with the adult female, they lay down the egg within 2 to 3 months. And these unembryonated eggs, they are passed in the fecal matter from the patient, and they are developed into the soil environment. Within 10 to 14 days, they are converted into the embryonated egg, which containing a larva. And this larva again, this embryonated egg, again it is an infective form of the parasites. So incubation period is almost 70 to 90 days. Most infected individuals are asymptomatic with or without having eosinophilia, because it produces allergic conditions. So you will find the IgE level raised in the patient. The people having with heavy infection, there may be mechanical distortion leading to inflamed edematous friable mucosa, allergic response which is seen by host. Common manifestation of this parasitic infection, which includes the abdominal pain, anorexia, Trichuris dysentery syndrome, iron deficiency anemia, recurrent rectal prolapse, then growth retardation and impaired cognitive function. So in the laboratory diagnosis, how you will found the patient having this Trichuris infection. So obviously it's a parasitic infection. If you found, you have to go for the stool examination. So you will ask the patient to having a stool sample, and you can see by the direct microscopy, by the wet mount preparation, or by the iodine preparation. So in the iodine preparation, you can see the barrel-shaped eggs having a mucus plugs at the both the end. So this is the typical morphology you can easily find out from the light microscope in the wet mount preparation. And in the single smear, you can found that because approx 200 eggs can be found per gram of the stools. Sometimes the adult form may be found in the stool sample. Okay, so this type of adult form may be found. Other finding which includes the peripheral blood eosinophilia. Obviously, eosinophil count may be raised and patient having an increased IgE level. Treatment which consider for this parasitic infection, it is a mebendazole and albendazole 400 mg daily for 3 doses, which is a safe and moderately effective for the treatment. And sometimes ivermectin may be used, but it is a safe, but it is a less effective than albendazole. Now we will see about the strongyloids, stercoralis. So the strongyloid stercoralis, which belongs to the superfamily Rhabdidioidea and family Strongyloidea. So epidemiologically, this parasite which is distributed in a hot and humid tropical areas. Particularly, it is common in Southeast Asia region, including India, Sub-Saharan Africa, and South America. They habitat as trichuris, which is seen, you can see in the large intestine, in the cecum. And this parasitic female resides in the human intestine, basically in the upper GI tract, like in the duodenum and jejunum. Free-living females worms multiply in the environment also. As I said earlier, that there is a soil cycle also. The female parasites may lay down the eggs in the soil environment, and again they are converted into different forms of larva. So you can see in this picture, this is the picture of adult female and this adult male, and this having adult male having a typical spicules at their posterior end. And in case of the adult female, you can see the single row of eggs which is seen in the body of the female. The morphology of the egg, you can see here that it's a oval, 50 to 34 micrometer in size by their length and width, and this eggs which is containing larva. Remember, this trichuris eggs which is not initially, they are not containing a larva. After entering again, they are after 10 to 14 days in the soil, then they are converted into the embryonated eggs, and then they are converted into the different stages of larva like L1, L2 and L3. The 4 stages of strongyloids larva, L1 to L4, and this is the filariform larva, and the second one is rhabditiform larva. The filariform larva having a notched posterior end as compared to posterior end in the case of rhabditiform larva, which is a pointed. The esophagus, which is larger in size, and in case of rhabditiform larva, the esophagus having a double bulb esophagus. So double type of bulging which is seen in case of esophagus, and buccal cavity which is present in case of rhabditiform larva. The life cycle of the strongyloid stercoralis, which involves only one host. Only man is sufficient enough for the repetition of the life cycle, because here there is an auto-infection also takes place. So domestic pets are also recognized as a reservoir of infection, but it is not produce any infection into the any animals. Infective stage is L3 larva, filariform larva, which is entered in our body through the penetration through the skin. And in case of auto-infection, the larva form, the eggs which is containing larva or eggs, they are entered through the fecal oral route also. So the filariform larva, which is penetrate through the skin, L3, they entered into the venous circulation, then they entered into the lung and trachea, bronchi and larynx, pharynx, and swallowed into the small intestine. They are small intestine, they are undergoing the molting. Then it is converted into adult female. The adult female worms in the small intestine having this type of structure. And this, the parthenogenesis, it is known as parthenogenesis because here there is no adult male. So without male, they are undergoing to passes the eggs. So they lay down the eggs which is containing a larva. Here there is always eggs containing larva. So this eggs containing larva undergoing molting in the intestine, and they are converted into the filariform, rebritiform larva first and then filariform larva. This filariform larva again they are penetrate the skin of the another patient. But in the soil environment, what will happen? There is an indirect development of the soil also. In the adult form in the environment, they are converted into the male and female worm, and fertilization occurs in the soil environment, and eggs again they are passed by the adult female and converted into L1, L2, L3 and L4 larva stage. So this is the direct development in the soil, like converted into L2 and L3, and again there is an ingestion. And this is the indirect development in the soil because here there is a differentiation of adult male and female from the larva. And again there is a fertilization, again there is a laying down of embryonated eggs and converted into larva stage. So there is a two type of direct and indirect development, and third one is auto-infection. Means again this filariform larva which is present in the intestine, they are converted into the, again they are reinfect the patient and they entered into the body. So the pathogenesis, which is if you see the life cycle of this Strongylus stercoralis, so you will find that whenever it goes, they produce the pathogenesis, like effect due to the migrating larva. So whenever this larva goes, they produce the sign and symptoms. So sometimes there is an asymptomatic infection, sometimes the parasitic load is very much low, they produce an asymptomatic infection. The patient having a complaining of rashes, cutaneous larva migraines because they entered through the skin. So penetration through the skin, they produce some tract inside, just below the skin. Then when they entered into the skin, they entered into the venous circulation which goes into the lungs, and again in the lungs they swallowed into pharynx, larynx and trachea, and they entered into the intestine. So whenever they present into the pulmonary area, they produce the pulmonary symptoms. So effect due to the adult worm. So these are the, previously we have talked about the larva form. Larva form which produces the sign and symptoms. So another type of sign and symptom which is produced by the adult worm. So where adult worm are going, they are going into the small intestine. They develop into the small to large intestine. So first they entered into the duodenum and they are laying down their eggs. So you will find the epigastric pain which is resembling the peptic ulcer. Then nausea, diarrhea, constipation and blood loss. Then if in the case of heavy this larva load, the hyperinfection syndrome may occur and disseminated strongyloidiasis occurs. So they goes anywhere in our body because they entered into the blood circulation. This larva which will go anywhere in our body. So which are the findings you will found in the laboratories? So in the laboratory, which samples you will going to collect? So according to their, if you know perfectly the life cycle, you will find that which sample you will collect. First they entered into through the skin. So sometimes the skin samples also collected, but you will never find any parasites or larva form in the skin sample. But whenever they entered into the venous circulation and entered into the pulmonary area, if you collect the sputum sample, you will found this type of rhabditiform larva in the sputum also. So again, if after entering into the small intestine, you will found that this parasite, which is if it is found in duodenal area, so you will use this antro test. So in the antro test, some string which is containing some material, and they are passes through this and the one end of the string which is come outside from our mouth, and another end of the string which is passed up to the duodenal level. So if you found this antro test may be positive, you will found the larva form which is stick on this type of string. And you can also go for the stool culture. There are a variety of the culture methods are available for the strongyloids, like Harada-Mori filter paper tube method, Petri dish technique, Behrman funnel technique, charcoal culture methods, agar plate techniques. Okay, but this all the stool culture methods which is applicable only the referral center, we are not doing routinely in our laboratory. Now the another test which is an indirect detection of this parasitic infection, strongyloids. So you will see about the ELISA. So in ELISA, coproantigen ELISA, which is also useful. It is consist of, and another is luciferase immunoprecipitation assay, which is detect the IgM or IgG antibody against this parasitic infection. Then this coproantigen in the stool, directly, this is the direct test. You will found this antigen directly from the stool. So this capture ELISA which detecting this excretory secretory antigen in the stool sample. So it's a direct test. Then another test which is a molecular diagnostic test. So real-time PCR which detecting the cytochrome oxidase subunit I gene, then 18S RNA, then 20S RNA gene sequences. So these all are the genes which is you can easily identify and you can easily found in the molecular test, real-time PCR. These are the complication of the strongyloids, because these strongyloids which is very commonly found in immunocompromised person. And these strongyloids having a typical type of life cycle, they having a different types of 2 to 3 types of life cycle, like direct life cycle, indirect life cycle. So there are the variety of complication which may found in case of strongyloid infection. The underlying cause of this hyperinfection syndrome is repeated auto-infection. So sometimes there is a bad hygienic conditions or immunocompromised patient. You will find this hyperinfection syndrome like conditions, which will lead to the generation of large number of filariform larvae inside the body. So all the body which is stuck up with this filariform larva, and larva which is penetrate the GIT and migrate to anywhere, any organ. Okay. So risk factor is basically the patient having any immunomodulator therapy or glucocorticoid therapy, immunosuppressive conditions like transplant, hematologic diabetes, cancer, carcinoma, hyperinfection syndrome, which is common in patient of co-infected with T-cell lymphotropic virus infection, means HIV infected patient. It is a most common opportunistic infection in HIV patient. Co-infection of strongyloids with HIV is very common. And in these severe cases, there is a dissemination strongyloidosis which is occurs because the strongyloids is the larva having containing larva, and larva can go anywhere inside the body. Then disseminated strongyloidosis you can find in the CNS, peritoneum, liver, kidney. These are the specific sites for the dissemination of this strongyloids larva. This is the findings of differentiating point between the hookworm and strongyloid, because they both having a same type of life cycle, but just a difference is size. About hookworm is larger than strongyloids, and esophagus in the anterior portion of this parasite having a shorter in case of hookworm, but in case of strongyloids having a long and cylindrical. Then tail portion having a long pointed tail in case of hookworm, but in case of strongyloids having a blunt and notched tail. So this is the structure having a rhabditiform larva. This is the iodine mount, and this is the histopathological findings. This is the cut section of the biopsy which is taken from the intestine. Even in the asymptomatic stage, strongyloidosis must be treated because there is a potential for the subsequent fatal outcome like hyperinfection syndrome. So even the viral parasitic load is very low. You have to treat this parasitic infection first, because it producing larva, and larva can go anywhere inside any organs. So ivermectin is a more effective than albendazole. It is contrast to trichuris. Trichuris in case of albendazole and mebendazole is more effective rather than ivermectin, because ivermectin is a systemic drug. So in case of systemic infection, parasitic infection, ivermectin is a good choice of drug. And for disseminated strongyloides, prolonged course of ivermectin should be given at least for 5 days or until the parasites are eradicated. Thank you.